You must forgive. There is a time, a place, and a process of internal reconciliation and reckoning that comes before forgiveness. Only you know when forgiveness is the right road for you to turn down. We're focusing on forgiveness as our ministry theme for the month of January, each week looking at it from multiple viewpoints, including things like self-forgiveness, forgiveness in its relationship to justice, other relationships, accountability, forgiving others, and the concept of being forgiven. This worship series is an invitation for you to go deeper into theological and ethical and personal matters of significance. I hope that by doing so, it will support your staying engaged and connected to our beloved church community. We're going to be doing this again in February with the concept of love in very different ways, and March with action. I hope this will answer some of your questions about forgiveness, or at least give you perspectives to mull over. Above all, I hope this month is a doorway that we walk through together to experience increased clarity, harmony, and peace. Forgiveness is a layered issue. It's one that many people find confusing at best, challenging for sure, and destructive at its worst. There are great gifts that come with forgiveness, including self-liberation. However, there is a dark side to forgiveness. That includes things like denial of how our own behavior impacts another we love or that we don't even know personally. A dark side of forgiveness can be rationalization and oppression. We can liberate ourselves with forgiveness. However, we can never do so at another's expense. Forgiveness is not the same as condoning behavior, as we heard in our story, or letting someone off the hook. It is not a synonym for justice. Forgiveness is an inside job. It includes releasing yourself from the burdens and the binding of anger, resentment, and holding on to the past. And for any of us who think we don't do that, I would encourage us to spend just one day, half a day, 1 hour, and watch yourself. Where are we responding to the present from the past? A past belief, a past experience, a past pain. Forgiveness is about washing our souls so we can experience the gifts of creativity, compassion, and connection with others. Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield says it like this. He says, forgiveness, it's not just about the other. It's really for the beauty of your own soul. It's for your own capacity to fulfill your life. Why do we withhold forgiveness from ourselves and other people? If we're living in a state of unforgiveness, we must believe it's doing something that we want or need. Do we think it punishes someone or incentivizes them to act differently? Or that if we grant forgiveness, we're condoning something that we know is wrong? Under it all, do we believe that withholding forgiveness is power? So let's think about each of those beliefs. Does withholding forgiveness punish someone? Well, certainly. But in my own experience, it punishes us much more. Does it persuade someone to act differently? Maybe, but generally not. Forgiving someone or something does not condone it. Withholding forgiveness as power Yes. However, and I have to challenge us with this, if we have something that we're holding on to and we haven't forgiven, it actually means that the other person or people have power over us. What if forgiveness is the ultimate power? Desmond Tutu, when he was the chairperson of the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission, said, "Forgiveness is not just to be altruistic, it is the best form of self-interest." I decided long ago as a child that the most powerful thing I could do was to not be open, not be hurt, and not be happy. Because no one then could know me, hurt me, or take away my happiness rather. And it worked. It was incredibly, incredibly futile. The only way I came to experience things differently was to forgive. And in so doing, I've created more positive actions in my life and work for justice than I ever could have before. Everett Worthington, forgiveness researcher and professor emeritus at Virginia Commonwealth University, teaches us that there are two types of forgiveness. There's decisional forgiveness and emotional forgiveness. Decisional forgiveness is when we choose to let go of angry feelings, resentment, and desires for retaliation. Emotional forgiveness is a step further. That is when we replace those feelings of anger and desires for retaliation with positive feelings of compassion, empathy, and sympathy. Emotional forgiveness results in the greatest health benefits, physically, mentally, emotionally. However, decisional forgiveness is the most important for repairing and reconciling relationships. In fact, people who forgive score higher on just about every measure of psychological health. Seeking forgiveness is part of the teachings of every world religion, although they differ in how that happens. In Judaism and Islam, a believer goes directly to God with their sins or actions out of alignment with their faith and values. In comparison, the sacrament of penance and subsequent absolution that is granted by God through the priest is an integral part of Catholicism, Roman Catholicism. Whereas in the Orthodox tradition, the priest is a witness to the person who is directly confessing to God. So what about us as Unitarian Universalists? Where does it fit in for us seeking forgiveness? I believe we are beholden to our own consciousnesses, to each other, and to the tenets of our personal theologies. We're also beholden to the relationships that we are in, to this congregation, and to our promises to uphold the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. There are too many stories of religious wounding related to forced confessions, confusing acts of penance, and destructive mandates to forgive other people who have done harm with no punishment metered, reparations offered, or justice upheld. These are devastating experiences that hurt people for life. I honor that, and in no way am I attempting to push those things under the carpet or act as though they don't happen. Forgiveness is not a self-help project, however. It's often billed that way. For many people, it is a psychological imperative, a theological imperative. We know that the most common thing expressed as a regret upon people's deathbeds were forgivenesses that were not granted. Finding forgiveness, whether in offering it or receiving it, is a deeply spiritual issue. It requires us to reconcile our values, our actions, our feelings, and to make sense of pain. And there are different ways of approaching forgiveness, including engaging in spiritual practices like the loving kindness meditation, or we'll do others over the month, the Hawaiian prayer of forgiveness. We can connect with others who've shared similar experiences, care for ourselves with therapy, sharing honestly with friends and confidants. Robert Enright identifies 4 steps in a process of forgiveness. The first is uncovering, which is acknowledging the pain, not of the harm done, but the pain that unforgiveness has caused us. Else, why would we choose to forgive? The pain that unforgiveness has caused us physically, relationally, or in our overall satisfaction with life. Then we come to the second stage, which is the decision to forgive. And then we move into the work. The work when we begin to understand the person who caused us pain, perhaps engaging in spiritual practices or retraining our brain to see how what we went through made us who we are today. And at some point, it turns into a new outcome. And we begin to realize what we're losing by holding on to resentment. We stop feeling the anger, we move into compassion for the other person, and most importantly, I believe, we can move into constructive action. Understood in this way, forgiveness is not an overnight matter. You, nor I, none of us will be healed this month, but we can get to know ourselves better and the world through this lens of forgiveness. Perhaps experience an opening even that leaves us a little freer and better able to act in accordance with our wishes. You see, the Indian mystic Meher Baba said this, and to me, if for no other reason, this encapsulates it. He said, love and forgiveness is not for the faint-hearted, but someone has to stand up and say, it stops with me. I will not pass on to my children or the children of the future this sorrow. Forgiveness, it is a choice. Amen, and blessed be. I'm going to invite us all now into a self-ritual, a ritual just with yourself. I'm going to invite us all to bring to our minds a purpose, a goal, an intention, something we hope to consider or have happen over this next month. Perhaps there's a person or people that you need or want or hope to forgive or have always deemed impossible to forgive. Maybe yourself, a relative, a group, or have a question of why is it to forgive? How might we forgive? How can I be an ally for justice and yet in a place of forgiveness? Whatever it is, bring that person, those people, yourself, or your question to your heart. And as we listen to this next song, just take this time to connect to what your heart truly needs in this month to come.